Good evening, you're watching CNN Money Switzerland. I'm Hannah Wise with your latest news headlines this Friday. The Montreux Jazz Festival has been cancelled this year because of the coronavirus outbreak. It's the first time since 1967 that the iconic festival won't take place. Organisers say the programme, planned for July, which included Lionel Richie and Lenny Kravitz, will be carried over to next year. The Paleo Festival was also cancelled this week. More on that this weekend here on CNN Money Switzerland. Drug maker Roche hopes to release blood tests to identify those who have been infected by the coronavirus by next month. The aim is to potentially advise on immunity and help populations resume work or contact with the public. This comes after Roche released new tests last month that allow for faster screening of patients with the virus. Credit Suisse has received new approval from Chinese regulators to become a majority shareholder in its securities venture in the country. CEO Thomas Gottstein said it was a significant milestone in their China strategy. The business provides various investment, underwriting and advisory services in China and has been expanding in the lucrative market for some years. Now, this week, the Swiss government issued guidelines on how it plans to loosen the coronavirus restrictions which have been in place during the lockdown. As a reminder, it will be done in at least 3 stages. The first to start on April 27th with limited reopenings. Compulsory school will restart in May with leisure activities in June. All of this, however, is subject to change depending on the levels of the virus. Well, joining me now is Rudolf Mensch, who's Chief Economist at Economy Suisse. Welcome to the programme, Rudolf. You think that the measures made by the Federal Council this week are just too timid. Why is that?
First of all, we see a huge progress now with these measures taking place in the next few weeks. The firms have a clear exit plan in a sense that they show what they have to prepare for. So this is a good also perspective for the whole economy. But as you have mentioned, the Federal Council is really not going in very speedy direction. So we would like to see a more progressive approach to open the shops and the like.
Such as what? I mean, just a broad opening of all shops immediately, you mean?
Our strategy would be that everyone who is able to protect the healthiness of the customer and the employees could open. So if they can prove they have taken the right measures, they should open in a self-responsive way and not directed from the Federal Council. But it's only a couple of weeks to go, so for the mess is not so tremendous.
I mean, this brings up issues, though, of balancing economy and health, though. I mean, I guess the government have to make sure that all the restrictions are in place so that, we can manage this. And the danger of opening too quickly, even with precautions in place, is that the health system can't cope.
Exactly. This is our main first goal, is that there is no overload of the whole healthy system, because that would create a second lockdown measure, and this would be catastrophic consequences for the economy. So what is the plan now is really to open step by step, but have a close eye on the development, what's going on in the health system.
Okay, but I see that on one hand, you're critical of the slowness of this, but at the same time, you understand that it has to be slow because that second wave would be catastrophic.
Yes, indeed. So the Federal Council has taken right measures. They're going the right directions, but the steps are taken a bit too slowly. That's our position.
How well do you think that the Swiss economy will be able to bounce back after it has been shut for so long?
So we see like 2 areas. The export areas, probably they will rebound relatively quickly once the international demand rises from anew. But within the country, the restaurants, the shops and the like, probably there would be not a huge immediate rebound of the system. They will suffering for quite a long time.
And so what kind of impact will that have? Sorry to interrupt.
Bankruptcy. A lot of enterprise will not survive because they started. They went into the crisis even without a good liquidity amount on the balance sheet and are not really solvent. So there will be, we see in the next couple of weeks quite an increase in the amount of bankruptcies in Switzerland.
Could you put a figure on that, a percentage for bankruptcies?
It's close to impossible to have this really to put a number on it. It's really unprecedented what happens these days.
I mean, the Federal Council tried to put into measures into place to protect against unnecessary bankruptcies, bank loans, for example, to help with liquidity. Did they go far enough, do you think?
Especially for the small and medium enterprises, these are exactly the right measures. What is missing up to now is what happens if the crisis lasts longer, and we have also difficulties with the larger enterprises, especially in the airport area, the whole planes, Swiss and the like. They will see some difficulties in the future, and up to now there are no measures in place for the kind of difficulties.
Would that liquidity help look like for bigger companies?
It's too early to say to what conditions and the like. There's a huge discussion going on in the administration about is there a need and how they should be done. There's also the Parliament has said they want to have an eye on it and also discuss these issues once they are taken by the decision taken by the Federal Council. They will add their comments on that. So probably this will not go on in the next 2 weeks, but beginning of May, we see a solution to that, hopefully.
Given that the economy isn't completely reopened, how much of an impact will this slow reopening have on the Swiss GDP?
So the estimate goes up to -8%. And probably there will be 2-3 percentage point could be saved with that smart exit we see now in Switzerland. So you have to keep in mind that the whole retail stores, they have many employees, and this costs a fortune for the short time insurance. And for that, there's a huge impact on GDP too.
The Swiss Blockchain Federation has outlined its worst-case scenario for the industry post-coronavirus. In an interview with CNN Money Switzerland, they say they're looking at up to 90% of blockchain companies not surviving the pandemic. This could result in thousands of job losses. Olivia Chang has the story.
How is the coronavirus crisis going to impact this image of Switzerland as a blockchain nation? Will there still be a crypto valley after all of this?
Well, we hope yes, and we are working hard now together with the Canton of Zug, together also with the Department of Economic, Federal Department of Economic. I think they realized how serious the situation is.
Switzerland is home to about 800 blockchain companies. What is your worst case scenario?
We did a survey. We asked all those 800 companies. We had answers from over 200, and from those answers, over 80% say that without any further money or without any help, they will not survive the next months.
So could Crypto Valley shrink by half, or are we talking about a majority of the companies?
Well, I just had the discussion with Heinz Tandler, the Director of Finance of the Canton of Zug, and he asked me how serious the situation is. And I told him, after those feedbacks, the worst case is that just 10 to 20% survive. So that could be that the crypto valley becomes a death valley.
Which companies do you think are most at risk in this situation?
They are not typical companies, it depends very very hard on their specific situation. We have the big foundations. They are not really in a dangerous situation, but all those startups, even older startups, 3-4 year old startups, they are waiting now for next money, and this is not coming. So those are in danger.
How many jobs are on the line then? How many of these jobs could be lost if we're talking potentially about a 90% loss or shrinking of Crypto Valley?
Well, you can do the same calculation. We are talking about 4,500 to 5,000 jobs, and then we are talking about don't know, 1,000 jobs will or 3,000 jobs we'll lose.
What you're telling me right now, it's not a very optimistic picture. Is there any way that Crypto Valley can actually recover from this?
Well, there is still hope, and as I told you before, I think that the Federal Council Mauder and Parmelin, they realized that they have a big issue with all the startups, not just in the Crypto Valley, and the canton and the city of Zug. I know that they are working on a plan to help them, but for sure, not all those startups will survive.
You've spoken to a number of the industry players and a number of the companies to get their insider view. Are these measures going to be enough, or are they really just losing hope?
That's a difficult question now. I hope that there will that a lot of the good companies will survive, but it is as it is for all the startups. I mean, 80% of all startups can survive even in normal conditions, under normal conditions. Yeah.
Well, Lorenz, Switzerland has worked very hard to build this reputation. Do you think that we can still call ourselves a blockchain nation after this?
That's what Heinz Tandler told me. He told me that Canton of Zug and the city of Zug invested a lot into the Crypto Valley, and the Crypto Valley has a reputation all over the world as the new Silicon Valley, and he knows that they have to do something that they have not the biggest damage now. I think for Switzerland, for the whole economy, the biggest damage is losing about 5 to 10 years of innovation. I mean, the startups in our country, those are the innovation drivers. And that's the point where has been realized now from Bundesrat Maurer and Parmelin. They realize that they not just losing jobs and companies, they are losing a lot of know-how, a lot of innovation.
As the Swiss Federal Council this week laid out more regulations on how we'll all get back to work during the coronavirus crisis, many of us still have many questions on how this will impact our lives and our jobs. A group of lawyers has now got together to offer free legal advice to SMEs, startups, and people who are self-employed to try and help them navigate this complex time.
So if you just count what has been issued from the federal government, there are more than 20 regulations. And I think the key is really not just to get information, but to answer actually your specific question. I think that's what we try to achieve with this initiative.
So who is contacting you as part of this initiative, and what questions are they asking?
So mainly you get people who are self-employed, small companies, be it 2 or 3 employees, and they usually, or even startups. We have seen now also startups, because they fall somewhat through the cracks of the regulation, to reach out to these law firms. And the questions you get is, be it from the startups, do we have access to the bank loans? How do we get access? Be it then on employment law is a big topic that you get from the employer, but also from employees questions. And then you have questions relating to your rental arrangements, the business premises you rent.
You said you set this up because of the flood of information that is out there. Do you feel that people aren't getting support from the federal government? They're issuing these kind of restrictions, or they're issuing these decisions and not giving enough support to the likes of small companies, startups, individuals?
I think it's maybe not that they don't get, guidance. I think it's just, and I would say even the regulation is written quite nicely, but if you're not used to reading legal text or a regulation, it's very difficult to really figure out, okay, what are the requirements? How do I get, access to certain loans, or how do I deal with this specifically for my enterprise? And I think that's the issue. It's breaking it down from a regulation level to my individual question.
And I guess now this week we've heard from the federal government again on how to get back to the office. Do you feel that you'll be inundated with questions around this?
I think there will be questions coming up on, can I be forced to go back to the office? How do I deal with, my office is opening, but I still have the kids at home because the schools are maybe a bit later that reopening. So I think there will be questions coming up.
What are the answers to these questions? Are we being forced to go back to work?
I think that's the ideal question you can pose to these law firms. And certainly, these are specific questions that they will be happy to answer.
Okay, and you can get the information where the initiative's called Legal Solidarity, and it covers the whole of Switzerland.
Exactly. You have about currently 15 law firms that are registered there. They are based in different areas of Switzerland. You click on their link and then you get to their offering. They describe what they offer free of charge.
And what motivates them at this time?
I think it's probably one of these unique situations where lawyers can actually, use their skills and do, and help and support people. I think it's different than in a natural catastrophe. I mean, their lawyers may have difficulties to contribute with their skills, but here I think they see that this is based on many regulations and people have a need to understand how to apply those. And I think they really are engaged there, and see that there is a need for it, and they're happy to actually, provide these resources. And I think it's great if we can, tap into these resources and make sure that everyone gets an answer to their legal question.
The Tour de Suisse may be cancelled this year, of course, because of the coronavirus outbreak, but organisers of the event still want fans to enjoy professional cycling on the actual course. How do they do this? Well, the world's top cyclists will be racing over 5 days from the comfort of their own homes via a virtual reality cycling platform, which could begin a whole new digital element to the sport. Matt Layton has more.
We have created these 5 digital races called Digital Swiss 5, which are going to be run between 22nd and 26th of April on a digital platform with 20 of the best professional teams in the world participating. So we're looking forward to a lot of real live excitement in cycling.
Right. Mechanically, how did you pull all this together? You have the Pro Tour cyclist, you have some really serious technology, and I guess you have the video from the Tour de Suisse. How long has it taken? What was your thought process, and how mechanically did you put it all together?
Well, actually, it only took 10 days to pull it off the ground, but that only worked because we have started working with Ruvi, the digital platform, already 9 months ago, with the idea to produce the courses we will do on Tour de Suisse for amateurs to ride on. That was the original aim. And now with the Corona situation, we pulled together with Velon, the organization of 11 World Tour teams, to actually create on these bases these digital racing.
Any links with real life competition, or is it just an exhibition?
No, it is for now. It's an exhibition because there is no rule framework around it. It's not part of the official racing calendar. So it is basically an exhibition, but it has to be, or it will be also a test for more in the future. One of our ideas is to actually run the digital Tour de Suisse in June on the original dates, on the original courses, the last 1.5 hours per day, which will then also be a stage race. So with a general classification, which is not the case now in April. So this is really a first step where we all have to learn. It's a very steep learning curve for everyone. Unfortunately, a bit like the Corona curve in the world. So we're trying to learn as much as we can now in April, and then try to implement all these learnings into a digital Tour de Suisse later in the year.
You're a very experienced businessman. I've just been thinking for the last few minutes, there are extraordinary possibilities of this type of product. Are you going to develop, and is it important that you're first to market?
It's very important that we're first to market, I think. And of course, we will develop. I don't think it's going to go in a way that we're going to replace a normal Tour de Suisse with a digital Tour de Suisse. This is more an opportunity that was created now. You have to see also TV stations that have no live sports, that there is a lack of live entertainment at the moment. So we jump into a hole that's created due to the Corona situation. But we will very much so try to use what we create now around this digital Swiss 5 and digital Tour de Suisse to then move on in the future to create new products and maybe more used in winter times for amateur cyclists or for professionals. But at the moment, we have so much to do to get this off the ground. So we can't really too much think about what's going to happen in the next 6 or 12 months.
What about the professional cyclists? Because there's going to be, like you mentioned, most of the top riders in the world are going to be competing. Did they voluntarily buy into this, or were they coerced?
No. The ones I spoke to, they're super keen on participating because they really lack their goals they're working for. They're all out there training, the ones who can, or they're trying at home on the rollers, but they don't know what for. They don't know if and when it's going to restart. So having a fixed point in their calendar where they know that something's going to happen is really important for them, and they're really looking forward to participate.
And don't forget, everything is, as always, available on our website, cnnmoney.ch. But we'd like to leave you this Friday with this image of the Matterhorn in Zermatt. It is draped in the US flag in a show of solidarity with America, which is now the country that has been most impacted by the COVID-19 crisis, with the highest number of confirmed cases. Have a good weekend. Stay safe. Bye-bye.